What
It's
I
America's most accessible sport. I think it's something
Yeah,
like 70 million people bowl
something
once a
like
year.
that. Yeah, yep,
Yeah. So as a marketer, I looked at it as your top of funnel. Like that's how many people who are interested in some point, and then your job as the proprietor is to kind of bring them into, like you said, more and more frequent. Whether
yep,
that's a short social league or maybe down towards 35 sanctioned league, but
yep.
just you're bringing them in into your funnel.
It's something for everybody. That's, I think, the biggest thing that proprietors will learn in the last 15, 20 years is you can't jam a 30 something week league on everybody. It's not going to work. That's the biggest thing. It was funny. I wrote that in the last chapter of my book, and it's still true. America obviously is different today than it was in the 1970s and 80s in terms of people don't want to bowl 30 something weeks of the year straight. Women work out of the home like no other time. They're not daytime women's leagues. Bowling centers are sometimes worth more. The land is worth more than the
Yeah.
centers. So they
So puts
close.
most of them out of business.
Yeah, and so it's just what bowling has tried to do, and I think they're doing a better job of it, is trying to meet and address the changes that society is. It's not necessarily bowling's fault, but what is bowling's fault is we don't do anything about it. If you don't do the things you
Mhm.
need to do to understand, okay, here's the way things are today, and you need to do things differently than you did maybe when you were younger and coming up. And if you do that, I mean, you can be very successful. Bowling can be a very successful business, whether it's a family or whether it's a corporate. It can be very successful if they put the effort into it and really look to what do your customers and potential customers want and see what you can do to give it to them.
Mhm. Yeah, it's always that product market fit, right? How do you
Yep.
serve them well? And the cool thing about bowling is that obviously there's some variable costs, but the majority of your costs are fixed. So
Yep.
once you get over the hump, it becomes a very profitable business.
Absolutely.
So it's just getting
Absolutely.
past that and getting the volume in.
Yep. And the good thing now is that, and I think Frank DeSocio talked about this a few years ago,
Mhm.
those centers that have survived, especially in the last few years and especially through the pandemic, have and will continue to do well. I mean, we don't
Mhm.
obviously have as many as we used to, and that's fine.
Right.
But
Yeah.
those you'd
Helps the
rather
one still
have,
in business,
yeah, you'd rather have
survivors.
everybody succeeding. You'd rather have a smaller number succeeding than half not succeeding and half succeeding. I think that's just better for
Mhm.
the industry.
Yeah, I think that's one of the trends that's really helped in the last 2 years. We'll see if it continues or not, but that the number of not just bowling centers that went out of business, but restaurants too, or other
Yes.
things to do in town that went out of
Yep.
business.
Yep.
If you're still in business, people still want stuff to do, so you collect all that business.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I think it's a good time to be in the bowling industry. It's a great time to be a writer about it,
Mhm.
great time to be a marketer about it like you guys. And there's a lot of stuff out there to share. And the other thing I think that's been a big, I forgot this earlier. The other thing that's kind of big is a lot of bowling centers when I started, bowling centers saw each other as the enemy. They saw each other as competition. And I think the big one of the biggest changes now is I think the younger proprietors especially have seen, no, we are all part of a pie, and
Mhm.
we can keep a part of that pie. Our competition is other entertainment venues, whether it's sports, movies,
Yeah.
concerts, even yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, because a lot of people just stay and play at home and
Mhm.
gaming and stuff. Those are the things that are our competition. So it's good to see that I think people in the industry realize that we're not each other's enemy, and we never should have been, but they
Yeah.
did. They sure did back in
Yeah.
the 80s and 90s. Boy, I tell you, you can't
Right.
steal my league, or I'm going to have a lower price than you across town to brawl. That didn't work. That
Yeah,
didn't.
I would argue that across all ages that they're very open. And in fact, Mark, this podcast wouldn't exist if it weren't for the proprietors and their willingness to share. Because I
Yep.
can call almost any of them up and say, "Hey, what's working for you?" And they don't drop a beat to say, "Hey, here's what's working for us. Go try
Yep.
it at your place."
Yeah, that was one of the things we were always big at USBC was sharing of successes, whether it was our
Mhm.
associations around the country, whether it's proprietors. It's, hey, if it worked in the state of Washington, it can work in Texas, it can work in Maine, but you need to know about it because best ideas and shared ideas is the way to go. And so that we were always a big stickler for that kind of sharing ideas around the
Mhm.
country.
Yeah. Well, speaking of sharing ideas, Mark, if people are interested in sharing some ideas or learning about the ideas that you guys are sharing, I should say, where should they go to learn more about the International Bowling Media Association?
Yeah, our website is bowlingmedia.org. We're also on Facebook. Just type in Bowling International Media Association. You'll find us on Facebook. We'd love to have you
Mhm.
join us. Try to get some conversation started there. And that's our primary too right now. We were on Twitter at one point, but I think we've kind of lost that a little bit. And so, but if you look at Facebook and our website, those are our big areas. And again, membership is on there. All our press releases are on there. Our award winners, we have a lot of award winners. We do bowlers of the year, senior bowlers of the year, and then we have honorary things like for our Hall of Fame and somebody who's been the biggest in who's done the most for the industry. And so we have about 8 major awards that we do. And hopefully take a look on there and see, and hopefully nominate some people. If you know
Mhm.
somebody who you see the criteria and you think that somebody might be worthy of it, please nominate them to us and let
Yeah.
us know. That's how we find out about things, is somebody tells us.
Hey, did you like this video? Great. We make 10 of them a week. Subscribe to learn more and keep learning about what's working in the industry. Talk to you then.